Okay, I know we just had our lunch, but by show of hands, who wouldn't mind tasting this beautiful bowl of butternut soup? Me too. Well, what if I told you that there is a threat to the butternut production of South Africa? And guess who's the suspect? The lesser pumpkin fly. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rigardt van Rooyen, and I'm supervised by Prof. Pierre Addison and Dr. Gulu Bakker. And today I'll be presenting one of the chapters from my master's, which focuses on the population dynamics and damage caused by Dacus ciliatus on butternuts. In the Western Cape, butternut growers who export their produce face a serious threat: the damage and resulting economic losses caused by Dacus ciliatus, also known as the lesser pumpkin fly. This pest is a tephritid fruit fly native to Africa that specifically targets cucurbit crops. The fly goes through 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Adult females lay eggs in young butternuts before the skin hardens, making early damage hard to detect. Larvae feed inside the fruit, causing internal damage that only shows up later. They then pupate in the soil, where they are protected from most control treatments. Finally, adults emerge, ready to repeat the cycle. In warm conditions, this can happen in just a few weeks, leading to multiple generations in a season, amplifying the problem. Research into effective management tools for Dacus ciliatus remains very limited. This review by Dacus et al. Illustrates the gap well. The highly studied Ciliatus capitata has over 180 publications focused on monitoring and control, while Dacus ciliatus has just 6. As a result, we currently lack information on the biology and ecology of Dacus ciliatus in South Africa. Therefore, the aim of this study was to investigate the seasonal phenology and impact of Dacus ciliatus on butternut crops in the Western Cape of South Africa. The aim was achieved by conducting bi-weekly trapping on 2 farms and by quantifying butternut damage caused by this pest through conducting monthly damage assessments. Let's look at the methods. This map shows my study area, where Farm A and B are situated. The study focused on 3 fields per farm. Each field was planted at different times, and sowing dates also differed between the 2 farms. This allowed me to observe how fly populations varied with sowing dates. This is an aerial view of Farm A. And this aerial image shows Farm B. The yellow dots mark the locations of yellow McPhail traps baited with quest lure, a protein hydrolysid attractant. Dichlorovis served as the killing agent, and traps were checked and serviced every 2 weeks. Damage assessments were carried out once a month. Around each trap, 5 plots were randomly selected. At each plot, I inspected 5 young butternuts for signs of Dacus ciliatus damage. If damage was found, the affected fruit was collected. In the lab, each butternut was weighed and classified according to these 4 weight categories. Each butternut was then incubated in a separate container to confirm and count Dacus ciliatus emergence. Now moving on to the results. First we will look at bi-weekly trapping. This graph shows Farm A, with mean flies per trap per day on the y-axis and trap service dates on the x-axis. And in the legend we have the 3 fields as well as temperature range and mean. At this site, we see a clear difference in the trap count trends across the 3 fields. But there are 3 key observations I want to highlight. First, the third sown field, which is the orange line, showed the highest peak in fly trap counts. Second, the third field also had the shortest time from sowing to peak fly trap count, indicating a more rapid build-up of the population. And third, across all fields, fly numbers dropped shortly after harvest, suggesting that harvest timing plays an important role in population decline. At Farm B, we observe the same pattern in terms of sowing date and fly trap counts. The last sown field reached the highest peak FTD, and the third field again had the shortest sow to peak interval. However, the difference here is that the overall population trends across the fields are more synchronized, unlike Farm A, where the patterns were more distinct between fields. And as before, population decline closely followed harvest. This graph shows the FTD for both farms with fields combined. It helps illustrate the differences in timing, rate of population growth, and peak between the 2 sites. What stands out here is that Farm A experienced both the fastest rate of fly population increase and the highest peak overall. Moving on to damage results. So this scatter plot shows the relationship between butternut weight and the number of emerging flies. What's clear is the strong cluster below 200 grams, with some fruit supporting the development of up to 80 flies. This graph shows the percentage of butternut damage at Farm A, broken down by weight class for each month. For example, in January, approximately 38% of inspected butternuts were infested. Of that, the majority, 32%, were in the small category. The remaining 6% damage was split between the other weight classes. Now we're looking at the severity of infestation at Farm A, measured as the number of flies emerging per gram of fruit for each weight class across different months. While the previous slide showed us when and which size classes were most commonly infested, this graph tells us how heavily infested those fruit were and which size class contributed most to overall emergence. Don't be alarmed with what you see at November. What you're observing is that only one butternut was infested, which weighed 15 grams, from which 15 flies emerged. Now turning to Farm B, we're looking at the same type of data. This graph shows the percentage of butternuts infested each month, broken down by weight class. At Farm B, we again see that small fruit were the most severely infested across all months where damage was recorded. This consistent pattern highlights the vulnerability of smaller fruit and their potential role in driving fly population growth at this site as well. To wrap up, here are some key insights with management implications. Firstly, fields sown later in the season showed a more rapid increase and a higher peak in Dacus ciliatus trap catches. Secondly, butternuts are susceptible to oviposition up until the rind hardens, but small fruit of up to 70 grams were the most vulnerable. These early stage butternuts were highly susceptible to infestation and contributed significantly to population growth, making targeted management during this stage essential. Lastly, trap counts declined after harvest. This suggests that earlier harvesting and the prompt removal of plant material could help suppress fly numbers and reduce the fly's overwintering potential. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the funders of my project, especially the Goosen Farming Group, for allowing me to do this research, and thank you for your attention. It's been a real privilege to share this work with you today. And yes, I still enjoy my wife's butternut soup.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rigardt. It's a good talk. Do you have questions for Rigardt? Anyone? You've got, start at the back there and then over here.
Hi, thank you for the great talk. I love butternut too. So I just wanted to check, when you compared, did you compare the damage of this of the insect in the coverage range of your traps versus the damage outside of the coverage area of the traps?
So I just focused on the 20-meter radius around each trap. The reason for that is we still want to look at, is there a relationship between trap catches and the percentage damage that we're finding each month.
All right, thank you.
Please. All right.
Hi, nice talk. So I'm sure you know your farms very well. What is the surrounding vegetation or farms look like? Because that steep increase to me says that they're breeding elsewhere and just sort of coming into the fields when those fruits are ready.
Thank you for the question. I actually confirmed an alternative host. It's a Citrillus lanatus or something like that. Wildly grown cucurbit. But they're not that abundant, so I can't imagine that they're contributing that much to the population. Otherwise, it's a very heterogeneous landscape. A lot of different fruit, fynbos, and I think there's also a lot of locals growing butternuts in the nearest towns.
Got the same question. Okay, are there any other questions for Rigardt? I don't see any other hands. Okay, thank you very much. Good talk.